The Central Intelligence Agency has a long history of ties to illegal activity, morally questionable decisions, and impossible to leave experimentation that seems to border on the insane. Regardless of their actions, it seems that nearly every new declassified document seems to uncover more and more impossible to explain, or even worse, impossible to justify experiments that continue to bring to light just how far the CIA is willing to go to gather their intelligence. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we will be going over many of these declassified experiments to uncover just exactly what the Central Intelligence Agency has done over the past few decades. The illegal MKUltra experiments. Referred to as the CIA Mind Control Program, Project MKUltra was developed for the sole purpose of developing drugs that could be used to weaken a person's resolve and force them to admit hidden information against their will via the use of mind control. Officially beginning during 1953, the project used a variety of illegal experiments to conduct their research. One such including experimentation on poor neighbourhoods via the water supply, experimentation on unknowing Canadian citizens, experimentation via uninformed consent given by university students. One such student involving Theodore Kaczynski, of whom would undergo more than 200 hours of supposed treatment and would later go on to become the Unabomber, one of the most notorious domestic terrorists responsible for mail bombings. Experimentation of known assassin Sirhan Sirhan, of whom would later go on to assassinate Robert Kennedy during his campaign to run for presidency, and a wide variety of unnamed test subjects over the nearly 2 decades that the project was continued for. One of the known drugs used for mind control was lysergic acid dithylamide, also known as LSD, and was illegally entered into public drinking water in a wide variety of poor neighbourhoods to view the effects of the drug against a larger population, resulting in incredible levels of violence, paranoia, and increased agitation. Despite the studies and findings leaving a trail of impossible to dismiss illegal activity, the MKUltra project would continue up until 1973, when several whistleblowers would come forward with information surrounding the project. Unfortunately, next to nothing was uncovered during this time, as the then CIA director Richard Helms quickly ordered that all MKUltra files were to be destroyed that year. This forced all subsequent investigations and Senate hearings to rely solely on gathered witness testimony, and only a handful of surviving documents that were not destroyed under the order of Richard Helms. Psychic soldiers under Project Stargate. Back in the early 1970s, it was rumoured that the Soviet Union had begun spending around 60 million rubles a year on the study of psychic abilities and remote viewing, the ability to see locations far away via astral projection, on a project known as psychotronic research. In fear that the Soviet Union had learned of a new form of spiritual technology, the United States quickly funded and established Project Stargate, of which had the express purpose to also study the remote viewing phenomenon and use psychic soldiers as a method of retrieving information of captured prisoners of war, high-value targets, terrorist organizations, and preventable attacks. Research into remote viewing would begin back in 1972 at the Stanford Research Institute located out of Menlo Park in the state of California. The lead researchers, Russell Targ and Harold Puthoff, required a minimum accuracy of greater than 65% statistical success before an individual could be accepted into the research study, with claims that many of the participants far exceeded this percentage but were not always 100% accurate with their guesses. Shortly after the project began, the team was able to locate a lost Soviet spy plane in 1976 by psychic participant Rosemary Smith, as well as additional claims of recovered POWs and high-value targets over the years. By 1995, however, given the advancements made in satellite and surveillance technology, Project Stargate was cancelled under CIA administration that believed the project to have been nothing more than a scam to receive funding, with claims that the accuracy behind the group's findings were attributed to independent detective work done outside of the research group's efforts. Despite the large amount of evidence of the project's success and findings in the psychic realm, the CIA holds the belief that the alleged psychic technique was of dubious value and lacked the concreteness and reliability necessary for it to be used as a basis for making decisions or taking action. The final report found reason to suspect that in some well-publicized cases of dramatic hits, the remote viewers might have had substantially more background information than might otherwise be apparent. The Gateway Experience Study. Declassified back in 2003, a government document between an independent researcher and a United States Army commander shows undeniable proof of a strange CIA experiment known as the Gateway Process Experience that was created to enhance the brain of an individual in the effort to give them mental superpowers that would help them to achieve a higher mental capacity than is capable for the average person. Throughout the document, the researcher mentioned key researchers known in the field of psychology, neuroscience, and studies in the realm of consciousness, including Israeli inventor Ishtak Bentov, of whom invented the first EKG electrodes to measure accurate brainwaves. The document then goes on to detail a process that would allow the brainwaves of the left and right hemisphere of the brain to reach matching frequencies at the theta level. This is accomplished via assistive hypnosis from trained psychologists, techniques in transcendental meditation, and utilizing the human body's natural frequency following response. In the document, the researcher details the following statement. To achieve synchronization of brain hemispheres, the hemisync technique takes advantage of a phenomenon known as the frequency following response, or FFR, which means that if a subject hears a sound produced at a frequency which emulates one of those associated with the operation of the human brain, the brain will try to mimic the same frequency pattern by adjusting its brainwave output. Therefore, if the subject is in a fully awake state but hears sound frequencies which approximate brainwave output at the theta level, the subject's brain will endeavor to alter its brainwave pattern from the normal beta to the theta level. Once this artificial form of enlightenment is achieved, however, the subjects are trained in advanced problem-solving, total memory recall, with photographic and holographic memory recall, the ability to learn new skills at an increased rate, as well as experience out-of-body astral projection that supposedly allows for remote viewing and the accurate prediction of future events. The CIA Alien Awareness Study. At the end of 2017, the United States Department of Defense began their subtle declassification processes by slowly declassifying a collection of military documents and research information to the general public. Usually, these declassification processes are fraught with financial information, technical documents, and references to training programs, government budgets, assistance with other nations, or other basic procedures of which do not hold any significant importance outside of technical military information. However, it became apparent very quickly to members amongst the alien community that the declassified files coming from the Pentagon were more than just research and technical information. Back in 2007, the Department of Defense began developing a UFO research program tasked with gathering information regarding unidentified flying objects and conducting research as to the observed aircrafts, their origin, and their technological prowess. The research group was quickly budgeted with $22 million in support and a team of military intelligence officials, researchers, and the highest levels of security clearance. The program itself went by the name of AATIP, of which stood for the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, and was given the primary objective of identifying these unidentified flying objects as whether or not they are potential threats to national security. It did not take long for the AATIP team to gather a wide variety of strange sighting reports made by pilots from all across the country, including associated data like camera footage and radar information, while attempting to match these sightings with known international aircraft signatures. Expecting to find explanations to these craft and their origin, after the gathered data was compiled, it became rather obvious that this would not be the case. In fact, many of the researchers involved in the program regarded these UFO sightings and craft as having no earthly origin and displaying behavior that could not be explained. This could very well be the closest the Department of Defense will ever come to admitting the viability of extraterrestrial craft without directly saying it. With all of this acknowledgement of unidentified craft, their strange abilities, and the potential for extraterrestrial life, it might appear that the Department of Defense and higher intelligence officials might be slowly coming to the consensus of total disclosure regarding the viability of alien contact and classified government projects. However, that could not be further from the case. According to Nate Jones, the director of the Freedom of Information Act, he claims that the footage shown and provided was never officially declassified, and that there are potentially many files that are still yet to be declassified that have not yet gone through the proper channels. In fact, it appears to be that the initial cause for the declassification of certain files to begin with was due to a potential leak of information that originated from inside the Pentagon, as Nate Jones clarifies that it looks very strongly like these weren't released through any proper DoD declassification channels, when referring to the shown footage and declassified reports. The Department of Defense has also taken a stand by saying the official who is authorized to release this video on behalf of the Department of Defense did not approve the release of this video. The Pentagon is also referencing a study made back in the 1950s by the Central Intelligence Agency's Psychological Strategy Board, of which concluded that the public's potential reaction to UFOs could cause an instance of mass hysteria which constituted a national security threat. This could very well mean that we are decades away from a full disclosure of the project and other secret Pentagon UFO files. The Cincinnati radiation experiments. Seen as one of the most morally bankrupt and disgusting experiments ever conducted on the US population is that of the Department of Defense-funded project known as the Cincinnati radiation experiments. It is estimated that over the course of about 11 years, with more than $670,000 in funding, a doctor by the name of Eugene L. Sanger conducted illegal radiation experiments on unknowing African American citizens alongside a team of 14 other scientific researchers. According to the investigation, under the support of the Defense Atomic Support Agency and the Department of Defense, research radiologist Eugene L. Sanger began studying the effects of radiation against individuals for the purpose of better understanding the effects nuclear war would have on soldiers hit with large doses of radiation. This led to the researcher conducting 5 years of experiments on African Americans and low-income patients without their consent, resulting in massive doses of radiation given under the guise of claiming that it was nothing more than medical treatment for basic illnesses. The irradiated patients experienced symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, severe cognitive impairment, and even death. During the study, more than 100 patients were illegally irradiated, including 3 children aged 9, 10, and 13. The experiment was not uncovered and brought to light until research students working as assistants to the researchers began to notice that large doses of radiation were being administered to patients that otherwise would not have needed the treatment. Originally, the research students were intimidated not to come forward, with Eugene Sanger claiming that the students were not educated enough to go against the medical advice of the lead researchers, but eventually came together and reported the illegal activity for it to be stopped. But what do you all think of these strange and oftentimes morally corrupt experiments that the Central Intelligence Agency has conducted in the recent past? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. And once again, thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.